And topic 4 is a pretty straightforward topic, and it certainly applies to not only small business, but it applies to anything within the communications world in general, okay? So if you have to communicate anything, anywhere to anyone, this is a good module or good topic to help kind of break it down into a systematic approach, okay? So our basic thing that we're going to be looking at tonight is the techniques for effective communication and the tools that we use in order to communicate and create a deal or to be able to sell products. So if we look at the communication process, the communication process really involves a two-way flow of information. Now, this flow of information includes a bunch of things. Spoken words, it could be actions, people's physical actions, it could be ideas, it could be any number of things that are flowing through what's called a communications channel. And the whole idea of communications is to bring understanding, okay? That's the whole purpose of it, to create an understanding. So if we have an understanding of the communication process, we can do a better job communicating. That's the basic thing. And lots of things are there, like fences or stumps or things to trip you up. There are lots of things that can influence the communication process to the good and to the negative. What I like doing whenever I refer to this, I like using this particular graphic right here. Now, this particular graphic effectively is a schematic diagram of communication. Okay, let's look at it from this core. Okay, here's the core. Whenever we think of communication, communication really has a sender called the source and a receiver. The receiver, the person who receives, the listener, the hearer, the reader, whatever. That would be the receiver. So between the source, where the information is coming from, and the receiver, the person that's receiving the information, there's a gap. And that gap is called the communications channel. Now, like here tonight, here we are, and we have a gap. Now, Harrison, I know you're in Clarenville. So here we are, I'm in Clarenville, you're in Clarenville, but we're still physically distant from one another. So what do we use in order to be able to communicate? Well, I have this computer system. This computer system has a microphone. That microphone takes my voice and it turns it into an electronic signal, which gets put into this magic box called the computer, which gets sent through a magic system called the internet, comes through to your house, your computer, and through to your speakers. So it's a complicated set of electronic technology that allows the sender to send the message to the receiver. Now, it's not always that complicated. You could be talking to someone face to face, or you could be talking on a telephone, or you could be writing something down and someone reading it. Either way, it is going through a channel. When we put it in the channel, when I speak, for example, I'm doing something called encoding it. I'm encoding it in English. I'm speaking English. Now, the thing is, it's going to get sent through this magic channel called the channel of communication. And when it comes out the other side, you, in your brain, have to decode it. Now, if you don't speak English and you don't understand English, there's no way for you to decode it. Okay? So whenever we think of the communication, the encoding process and the decoding process must work. People have to have similar language, or be able to read the writing, or be able to see the photo, or be able to watch the video. That sort of thing is what would be necessary for the decoding process. The decoding, then, you would have to interpret it in your brain, and as that, you would be the receiver. Now, the challenge is that this little intersection right here, this middle point, this mystery black box that we call the communication channel, we have a lot of things that can go wrong in there to allow for miscommunications. In other words, what the receiver hears and what the sender sends is different. It could be because the tone of voice, it could be because what was said, it could be how it was said. It could be distractions or anything like that. So we talk about the distractions as a terminology called noise. So if you're watching a TV commercial and the TV commercial is trying to sell you a product or inform you of a product, and you get distracted, you gotta go pee, you go make a sandwich, whatever, that is all considered as noise. In other words, it interrupts the signal from flowing between the encoder, the source, and the decoder, you. So noise is a common thing whenever we have communication. People are thinking about stuff, daydreaming, get lost in stuff, static, any number of things that could be physical noise, or it could be what we call experienced noise in terms of in our brain that what is said and what we hear, two different things, or we don't hear anything at all. The other important components are these two circles here that have overlap in this case. And the good thing is that when you have overlap, you have something called similar fields of experience. Now, if I said to you, for example, if I said to you, okay, let's talk about the beach below your house, okay? If I talk about the beach below your house, you're familiar with the beach below your house as I am. Your field of experience, the beach below your house, and my field of experience, having been on that same beach below your house, I can relate to what it looks like. You can relate to what it looks like. We have matching fields of experience. However, if we told another class person who lives in Labrador, for example, about the beach below your house, they're not going to have an idea of what you're talking about. They don't know where you live. They don't know what the beach looks like. They don't have any. Their field of experience is different than yours. Because of that, that level of understanding or the ability of them to decode the information is decreased or diminished. So whenever we're talking about something, if you're talking machining someone who just doesn't understand machining or has no idea what machining is, because their field of experience is different than your field of experience, it means they may not understand. It's like when you did a presentation to the kids. If the kids don't have a clue what a lathe is, never saw a lathe before, don't know, it's one thing to talk it to them about it, but they've never seen it before, they're not going to understand what you're talking about. So these field of experiences need to overlap between the sender and the receiver. There has to be some degree of overlap. It doesn't have to be perfect overlap, as we see here, not perfect, but there has to be something in common. So what does this do in terms of business or in terms of communication? Well, someone basically, when you're talking to someone, they have to have an idea of what you're talking about. They have to have some connection to the subject. And that connection to the subject allows for a matching field of experience, which allows for a better understanding. Now, so we got this, maybe the field of experience don't match. We got this issue of noise. A lot of things can get in the way. Different fields of experience, different backgrounds, different understandings, what people know. Someone who's older has more experience than someone who's younger, for example. Because of that sort of thing, we may not be able to link up, and the ideas that we transfer may not be the same. Noise could be physical, or as I say, it could be psychological, one or the other. The other important aspect that makes communication work, really, is because of those problems that I just outlined, we need to have what's called a response or feedback. Now, this is one of the things that I don't like about this particular format that we use a distance, okay? I cannot see your faces. I cannot see if you understand what I'm talking about. I can't see a perplexed look on your face. In a classroom, I can see that. So that feedback is so important to ensuring that the message is being understood. And without that feedback, you're kind of like flying blind. So you need a feedback loop in order for good communication to happen. So what does this mean with regards to business? What does it mean with regards to the selling process, okay? We think about communications and we say, well, what exactly is communications? So, well, communications is important for selling because it allows us to understand someone's needs. Basically, that's what we're doing in this marketing process. The whole purpose of marketing is to say, hey, what do you need? Is to ask that basic question and have it answered so that you can fill that need. Where do communications come from? Well, this slide here talks about all the other sources of communication other than people talking. There's a lot of communication that comes in nonverbal, and nonverbal, again, is key in terms of feedback. So if we think about nonverbal communication, things like head movements or head movements, head nod or a wave or gesture or something like that. Sound, someone laughing, someone smiling, someone, crying, whatever stuff we can hear. Appearance, what we see. Body posture, someone sitting up or someone slumped down. It really tells us a lot about how engaged they are. Eye contact is a key one. Eye contact is all about engagement. Facial expressions, body contact, and again, different cultures would allow a different amount of body contact. How close do you get someone? This idea of personal space is different in different cultures. Some cultures is tight, close talker, if you think about Seinfeld, or further away or very far away. And the tone of voice comes into play. So these are all nonverbal communications, and they're very useful, particularly in the feedback loop, so that we know that communication is working or not working. So we got all kinds of cues that come to us. If we can't receive those cues, that limits our ability to have a good communication. So communication in business, we got to be able to sell stuff. What do we need to do? Well, one of the key things that we need to be able to communicate, if we have a product or service that we are selling or that we're talking to someone about, what really gets it in the receiver's mind in terms of, is this product something that's useful to me? What really gets it are three essential elements, okay? Three essential elements. What are the features of what you're talking about? Why is it advantageous, that particular product? What is the advantages of it? And what are the benefits to me? If you're selling something to me, what are the benefits to me? And I need to be able to see that. So the features are basically the characteristics of the item. Is it red, blue, big, small, tall, fat, whatever? These are characteristics of the product. Could be high quality, could be precision machined, whatever. And you say, well, so what? It's pretty. It looks nice. It's big. It's small. It's precision machined. You have to understand, well, what benefit did that feature give me? You're going to be looking at, what is the benefit of that? If it looks pretty, it's appealing to me. That's a benefit that I would say. Now, some of the benefits have real tangible benefits. So if something is finely machined, for example, like the tolerances on it are thousandths of an inch, and you say, well, that's wonderful. And I say, well, who cares? I don't care if it's thousandths of an inch. What difference does it make? Well, the key thing is you have to be able to explain to me, well, when you have a thousandth of an inch or less than a thousandth of an inch as a feature, that means that the product is within a specification that will allow the product to do the job better. So if you had a lot of slop in something, for example, it wouldn't work very well. Well, the feature is the close tolerance. The advantage of the close tolerance is the product will last longer or do the job better. And the benefit is it will cost you a lot less money. Okay, so if you're selling a drill bit, okay, let's take an example of the drill bit. You're trying to sell the drill bit to someone. You say, well, what are the features of the drill bit? Well, the features of the drill bit is that it has a drill that will allow the chips to be pulled out. I don't know what, it clears itself easily, I suppose. That would be one of the features. The design of the shank of it allows for the chips to come out. What are the advantages of that? Well, you know that if you have all of the product gum up inside the drill, it's not going to drill very well. So you need it to be able to, and it also keeps it cool. So the advantage of that is it allows it to clear itself so that it stays cool and that it will drill better. And the benefit of that is the drill will last longer, it will give you a better hole, and it can cut faster. And really, when we're talking about business, speed equates to dollars, right? So features in themselves have really no inherent value unless they can be matched with something that the customer wants. So in a drill bit's case, the customer will recognize, you'll make good connection with the customer if you can say, this drill bit, even though it costs more money, it will save you money in the long run because it will do the job faster. That is saying, here's the feature. This is the advantage of that feature, allows it to work faster, which is the benefit is it saves you money. So when we're talking about communicating products, we need to include what are the features of the product, what are the advantages of those features to the customer, and what is the benefit to the customer of that particular advantage? What does it, and usually the benefit comes down to one thing, money, okay, bottom line. So if a customer doesn't see the connection between their needs and your capabilities, they really see no benefit. So you have to be able to convey this benefit that comes into play with a product or a service that you're being offered. We think about things like I got engineering seals. Most tradespeople will be familiar with seals that are used to keep oil in or dirt out or something like that in rotating parts. So in this particular instance, these folks, this particular company here, Darkoid, they make bearings and things like that. They clearly on their website, they have the feature, the advantage, and the benefit communicated to the potential buyer. Dynamic bearing surface contact. And you say, well, so what? So in the advantage, they're going to tell you what the so what is. Eliminates metal-to-metal contact between components. And what is the benefit of that? You say, well, so what? Well, prevents rod, piston, and seal damage due to scoring and reduces warranty costs. So again, dollars. Usually benefit comes down to dollars. Precision manufactured cross-section. Well, this would indicate that it enables tighter hardware clearances than conventional wear rings, which increases seal life and reduces extrusion gaps associated with conventional wear rings. In other words, stuff doesn't leak out. Low friction premium materials. That's a feature in this particular product. Well, that reduces frictional heat buildup, cuts down heat. Heat destroys things, and lowers operating temperatures, increase seal life. Precision flatness on bearing surface. Well, again, what is the advantage of that? Well, maximizes bearing contact area, compression strength, and prolonged cylinder life. Or the advanced high performance polymetric materials, what stuff is made of, basically. And metal particles and other contaminants can be embedded in the wear ring material and increases cylinder life by helping protect seals from contamination. Again, the feature, the advantage, and the benefit. So when we're communicating on a particular product, it is so important to be able to get those three essential ingredients in the communication. What are the features of this? What advantages those features provide, and the benefit. And as I say, 9 times out of 10, the benefit comes down to dollars. Less money being spent or more money saved or more revenue generated, something like that. Now, okay, so that's, if we think about communications and we think about the application of the communications process to selling product, one of the key things once you sell the product, okay, so we get along, we've gone from how do we communicate it to, okay, now we're actually making the deal, making the sale. And then we ask ourselves, okay, let me make one sale. We make one sale. We sell to one company, one item, and that company walks away and that's it. You ask yourself, well, how difficult was it to get that one company to come and buy something from us? We had to talk to them. We had to communicate with them. We had to tell them about the features, advantages, benefits. We had to get back and forth, and then we sold them a product. If we had to do that continuously, in other words, we go looking for a new customer, and then another new customer, then another new customer, and another new customer, we'd probably go bankrupt because it just costs so much money and effort to be able to get one new customer. What we've realized over time, and this has been realized by car companies and large corporations for years, is that the money is not in the sale. The money, in terms of revenue, is in repeated sales. In other words, if that customer that you just had, that you did your communication with, you talked about features, advantages, benefits, they bought the product, if that customer comes back again, and we go through that process, and then comes back again, goes through that process, and again, effectively, they start to know you, your products, your services, the features, advantages, benefits that you offer, and you don't have to do as much effort in order to sell that product. The amount of effort it takes to get from communicating what your product is, the feature, advantage, benefit, that speeds up. That whole process will speed up because that person or buyer is coming back familiar with what you offer. It's like going into a store you're familiar with. You don't have to look around in order to find where everything is because you're familiar with it. It's a much quicker sale. So what we talk about in business, that all companies who are involved in selling anything, be it a trades-related product or it could be something in Walmart. The real key is when you sell multiple items over the lifetime of the customer. Car companies realized this years ago, back in the 30s, for example, General Motors created multiple lines of cars. They had the Chevrolet, Pontiac, which doesn't exist anymore. They had Buick, Oldsmobile, and Cadillac. The purpose behind those is that you would graduate just like you go through school. You would start off as a young person driving a Chevrolet. It was their least expensive introductory brand. As you got older and you had more money and you had more experience and you've already bought your first car, you're probably going to want to go beyond what the Chevrolet offered, so you'd move up to a Pontiac. Then you'd move up to an Oldsmobile in your next purchase. And eventually, you work your way up to the very top of the line, the Cadillac. You proved you've made it. It worked well for you because it showed where you were on that scale of life. But it also worked well for GM because this was the very start of this whole concept that we're talking about now called relationship selling. And relationship selling involves not only selling one thing, but a series of products over the course of the customer's life, a continuous flow of sales. So it's like one bucket of water versus a tap that's always running, okay? So relationship selling involves multiple sales over the customer's lifetime. What is the big push to this? And what it makes sense, okay? Assumably it makes sense because it's less cost. What are the big advantages to you as a company if you're selling and you create a relationship with the buyer? Well, first of all, it adds value. It adds value to you and it adds value to them. They know you, you know them, you understand their needs, they understand what you can provide. The combination, that magic combination of familiarity adds value. The other thing that comes into play is that you can anticipate the buyer's needs and potential objections. So let's say, for example, that the customer has been there before, you recognize the business they're in, and you say to yourself, okay, well, before they were very concerned about delivery time. That was one of the key things. And you're going to say, well, probably this time they're going to be interested in delivery time too. Also, if you're going to sell them something that's more expensive or it takes longer to get, they're going to object. They're going to say, no, I don't want to buy that because. If you can anticipate, because you're familiar with them, their potential objections or potential issues, you can think about and address those long before they ever come up. Again, relationships allow us to anticipate someone's needs and be able to meet those needs in advance. The other thing is it builds a significant amount of trust. There's a mutual trust because you are dependent on that company to buy from you again, just like they are dependent on you to supply them again. So this mutual benefit of I'll make sure you're taken care of and I'll make sure you're taken care of is really a trust relationship. So relationship building is all about in developing this trust. I will develop the product for you and you will be happy with that product. And one of the key ways to build that relationship, obviously, is being familiar with the subject so that you can ensure that you continue to build trust, continue to add value, and continue to be able to know what the customer wants. And that that is important in terms of relationship selling. And if we had to talk about selling and the idea of marketing today, this is probably the key thing, because companies realize this is highly valuable. When someone comes back and buys from me again, that's where you make your money. So it's important when you sell products. It's an effective technique. Keeps the customers happy and keeps them coming back. But it is absolutely essential that you have good communication skills, because you're going to be able to listen to what the customer's needs are and anticipate those needs and meet those needs. And you'll learn from your customers, and you can build products that better meet your customers and new potential customers' needs based on that relationship experience. So what do we do in order to develop a relationship and create this selling process? Okay, this is like business dating 101. Step one is we need to be able to, as a company, if we're going out and selling products, okay, and we're looking for customers and we think, oh yeah, we'd like to keep those customers when we get them, we really need to be strategic and say, who is it we want to sell to? So we got to be able to go out and prospect. It's called prospecting, is going out and look for who are the potential customers that we want to sell to. If you have a small machining business, for example, that can only do so much production a year, you have a limited capacity, there's no sense to go to a huge company who wants thousands of items a year. You just don't have the capacity. You'll never meet their needs. So you got to be able to match up with your capacity with their demand. So that's going to mean that all the potential customers you got out there, you're going to say, these are the ones that meet my requirements or are capable. So these are what are called qualified customers. So in other words, customers that fit well with you. And you can dismiss all the ones that don't fit with you. And if you're looking for high volume production and you don't have high volume production, no sense in dealing with that type of customer. So once we go out and find potential customers, we need to find out about them. We need to do what's called a pre-approach. In other words, which are the key items that those customers need? Let's do a little bit of research on them before we ever meet them. We know who they are, what they build, what they do. This is no different than going on their website and doing a bit of research. That's effectively what pre-approach is all about. Find out about them. Familiarize yourself with the customers. Know their needs, and that way you can anticipate. Once you've got all your homework done, then you approach them and say, okay, look, here's what we do. Here's what you need. I think there's a good fit. Here are the features, advantages, and benefits of the product that we offer in order to make that work. And this is really engaging in what's called a presentation. And the real trick in most businesses is to get in to be able to do that presentation. But as you can see, steps 1, 2, and 3 is do your homework first. Do your homework first before you actually do that. Once you go out and do your presentation, then they're going to say to you, look, I like your product, but they're going to put a but in there. And this is really an objection. They're going to say, your product is too expensive. Or they're going to say, you can't make it fast enough, or you're too small. You need to anticipate those objections. What are they going to say? If your product is expensive, you say, well, our product is higher quality. You're paying for this, and this will create a savings for you in the long run because you won't need to repeat the business. You won't need to replace the item or something along that lines. So handling objections is thinking about what could the customers say. Back in this stage where you're doing your initial pre-approach of a business, you're going to anticipate what is it that this company is really, what does it make them take, what is it they need? If you can handle the objections well, you will do what's closing the sale. It's called closing the sale. And realistically, this is like going in a meeting that just doesn't end. You need to be able to bring it to a closure. So you got to be able to say to them, okay, look, we've done a presentation. We've handled your objections. Now, would you like to do a deal? Lay it on the line. That forces an issue. Now, you need to be clear, when did that occur? It's difficult to determine, but you do need to think about, is this a time where I've answered all the objections that we can actually go ahead and do a deal here? Sometimes there'll be further objections raised and you'll end up going back to step 5, but effectively somewhere between 5 and 6 is where you're saying, listen, let's do a deal. The final stage is really looking at follow-up. follow-up is so important, because in order to build that relationship, you need to keep close. Is the product working for you? What are some of the issues you're having? Is there anything we can do to address those issues? And this is a key to the relationship. So in terms of relationship selling, what do? Well, you maintain positive attitude. That's critical. Enthusiasm, absolutely critical. Objections are natural. Don't take offense to someone saying, but I don't want this because. You have to anticipate those and deal with them. Maintain good eye contact. Again, that feedback loop there in the diagram that we talked about is so important. That eye contact and body language and all that stuff plays into it. Acknowledge objections. Don't dismiss them and say, yeah, well, that's right, but we're doing this. So you need to be able to handle the objections in a positive way. And prepare to prove your position with testimonials, references, and documentation. In other words, back it up. Don't speak poorly of your competition. Don't speak poorly of someone else. Don't say anything negative about anyone else. So always work on the positive side. Tell the customer, listen, you're not wrong, but. So by saying you're wrong, that just diminishes the customer. Don't argue with the customer. Don't lie to the customer. I mean, this is trust building. There's no point in lying. Don't lose your cool, and don't ignore the customer's objections. There's a lot of focus on things not to do as well in order to build this relationship. Again, no different than dating. In terms of selling techniques, we think about, okay, that communication process. How can we do that communication process from a selling point of view? Well, there's a number of ways. We talk about direct selling as salespeople dealing directly with one another, like one-on-one. Okay, that's an expensive but very effective method because you're dealing with one person. Okay, you probably got to fly somewhere, you probably got to go somewhere, you probably got to take them out to dinner. It's a one-on-one thing. It's expensive, time-consuming, but very effective. Retail selling is come into my place and buy something. I mean, that's you, one, with many coming in. Agency selling is getting someone else to sell it for you. Effectively, you're just farming it out. Business to business selling is, again, could be direct selling. Business to business, one business selling to another business who's going to use its product. So that steel that you buy that you're going to use in the machining process, that's a business to business because you're going to take that steel and change it and sell it to someone else. Mail order selling, this is online, Amazon, you got it. Oh, and through online. So every one of those selling methods have a slightly different way of how to communicate. The goal is, though, in any of this, whenever you're selling, is to get in the top of the customer's mind. So you want to be able to say, or have the customer say that, okay, I got a problem. Who can fix this? You got to be the number one on top of their mind. So in order to do that, promotion is very important. To keep in the top of the customer's mind, you got to be able to communicate with the customer, facilitate the marketing exchange. So it's this constant communication. Promotion is not only used to sell products and services, it's also used to influence opinions and attitudes. So that's important there in terms of that. And, when we think about promotion, we talk about advertising, we talk about direct selling, we talk about promotional materials. There's any number of things that get your product in front of the eyes of a potential buyer. And we could think of direct promotion, which is your ads, or a more indirect promotion, which is seeing a commercial on television, which is not necessarily directed at someone, but just general. Personal selling, this one-on-one. Publicity, you think about how much you see in terms of publicity. Tim Hortons sponsoring soccer for kids is a form of publicity, right? You're going to think Tim Hortons whenever you think kids and soccer and donuts. And sales promotions is giving some sort of deal, buy one, get one free, that sort of thing would come into the idea of selling. So that is really the core of that. And again, all of it rests on this basic concept of being able to communicate with a potential customer.